What is going on, everybody? I am the FD Guru, bringing to you guys a Week 10 NFL DFS value video using FanDuel salaries. This is for the main slate. We have 7 games in the early window at 1 o'clock Eastern, 3 games in the afternoon window. And as usual, I'm doing a free Guru credit code in this video. I'll give it to you after the first few plays. Drop a like on it. Subscribe so you don't miss any future content. We have an interesting looking slate this week. It looks like we want to go cheaper at quarterback. There's not a lot of running back value. As of right now, it's still, early in the week when I make this video. It's Thursday, so we still have to see how practices run out with the injury reports, but we'll talk about things. And it's just not going to be the same slate as last week where we saw just mega value at the running back position. But we'll get right into the plays. As usual, I'm going to talk about each position. And again, I'll shoot you guys that Guru credit code in a little bit. So quarterback, it doesn't look like we want to spend up. Like I said, we want to spend up on running back. It looks like there's not a lot of value there. You could go with Josh Allen if you have that money. He is a premium of 9,200, but great matchup against the Dolphins. He could do a lot of things. He's been rushing for touchdowns as of late, 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. But, that just, it's kind of luck if they're at the goal line or on the 2-yard line and they don't give it to James Cook. A lot of things have to go right for you there. Lamar Jackson looked pretty damn good in his first start back from injury against the Dolphins. 25 fantasy points. Again, you're spending a lot on him. Drake May against Baker Mayfield. In terms of, just watching, that's one of the best games of the week, if not the best. Should be a bit of a shootout. I think they're pretty properly priced, though. Drake May at 8,200, Baker Mayfield 7,900. Jared Goff has a high upside against this poor Commanders defense at 7,800. But, there's so many weapons on that team. Goff doesn't necessarily have to go off. You could see, rushing touchdowns from David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I like Jackson Dart a decent amount at 7,700. It's not the cheapest price on him, but he's been getting a lot of rushing touchdowns, which is very valuable at the QB position because it's 6 fantasy points instead of the throwing touchdown, which is 4. He has rushing touchdowns in his last 4 games. And every game he started this year, he has rushed for a touchdown except for 1 against the Saints. He looks pretty good. He's been getting a lot of fantasy points. Again, the matchup's pretty good against the Bears. Should see a lot of points in that game. Same goes for Caleb Williams. He's $300 cheaper. He's coming off of a great game against the Bengals. That was an insane game in Week 9. Can't believe they came out with the win. 37.5 fantasy points for Caleb Williams. He was very popular last week, and I think he was like 7,300, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was pretty popular again in a good matchup against the Giants for just $100 more. Caleb Williams is a guy you could certainly look at. I like Sam Darnold the most, though, I think at 7,500. He's projected the second most passing yards. He has the second highest passing yards prop on the main slate, right behind Matthew Stafford. I like him a lot. The matchup's great against the Cardinals. He had an unbelievable first half last week where he completed every pass, ended up going 21 for 24, 330 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and he has currently the best wide receiver in the game, in my opinion, in Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's been an absolute stud. This Cardinals defense is average at best, really below average. In the passing and rushing front. So Sam Darnold at 7,500, good price on him. 4 touchdown passes last week, 31 fantasy points. He's at home. He's in a good matchup. I do like Darnold a lot. If you wanted to go cheaper, there's guys you could kind of look at. Brissett's been airing it out. He's the starter. Kyler Murray is going to be missing more time. It's a tougher matchup, though, against the Seahawks defense that's been really good this year, but he is 6,900. I don't know if I'm going to be going that way, but certainly something you could look at. Justin Fields is 6,800, maybe more of a GPP dart throw, but he has shown an upside this year, but he's also shown a really low floor. But that pretty much does it. Maybe Marcus Mariota too at 6,300. He's almost bare minimum with Jaden Daniels dislocating his elbow. Looked gruesome last week. Just that kind of year for the Commanders. But Mariota at almost bare minimum. If he can, the game script has him down in this game against the Lions. He could maybe find 2 or 3 touchdowns. And at that $6,300 price, he doesn't have to do a lot. So if you wanted to go real cheap, Mariota probably catches my eye the most. Running backs, like I said, you got to spend up. I don't see a lot of value. We have DeAndre Swift coming back this week. Monangai was a huge value play last week. He looked awesome. Now he's 6,500, probably going to be in that backup role again. Aaron Jones could be out, maybe unlocking Jordan Mason against the Ravens at only 6,600. Bucky Irvin might not be playing again, but Rachaad White is properly priced at 7,300. Again, there's just not a lot. James Cook didn't practice on Wednesday. We'll have to see what happens on Thursday and Friday. We could see some value for Ty Johnson and Ray Davis if he can't go, but if he can, he's got a dream matchup against the Dolphins, but he is 9,200, and you know me, he doesn't bring much passing or receiving upside. As you can see here, only a handful of catches on the entire year, so at 9,200, he really has to rush for 2 touchdowns, which he could definitely do against the Dolphins, but I got to go back to McCaffrey here at 9,700. If we're going mid 7,000s to low 7,000s at quarterback, I think wide receiver is going to be a cheaper position this week. I think we can spend up on CMC. The guy's rushing receiving yards prop again this week is 125. It was 130 last week, and I bet on it, and he soared over. This guy projects for almost 30 touches every week. How do we not go to him? Until he's in the Jonathan Taylor discussion around 11,000, I'm going to be picking McCaffrey again. 9,700, good matchup against the Rams. It should be somewhat competitive. 49ers are at home. They are 5-point underdogs. It doesn't really matter how the game script goes, though, for McCaffrey because he gets involved in the receiving game. 6 or more targets in every game this year. We know Mac Jones likes to dump it off to him. 28 rushes, 106 yards last week against the Giants. This guy's an absolute beast. All you guys who play year-long fantasy and took a bit of a risk getting him deeper in the first round or early in the second round, it is paying off because he's looking like prime Christian McCaffrey this year. I have no problem going up to $9,700 for him. If you wanted to get cheaper, like my value cheap guy, maybe David Montgomery. He finds the end zone once, luckily maybe twice against the Commanders if they get in the red zone, but there's not a lot of cheap stuff as of right now. We do have Rico Dowdle on the injury report. I'm assuming he plays at 8K. He could be a value play. I can't believe I'm saying it, but this guy has been a top running back in the league this year. He's now the number 1. Dream matchup against the Saints. 25 rush attempts for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. This guy projects out well. Again, we got to keep an eye out on his injury status with his quads. But he could be a play. AK is a lot, though, for Dowdle, but still pops out on optimizers. For wide receiver, again, you have your spend-ups, Nakua, JSN, especially if you're picking Darnold. You can do your best to try to pair them, but it's going to be tough because we don't have a lot of cheap value at running back, as I said. I think we want to go in the middle range here. I think there's plenty of good looks. We have Brian Thomas missing practice. He wasn't present on Thursday, so we'll have to see how it goes on Friday. We already have Travis Hunter out. They did get Jacoby Myers in a trade. Who knows how involved he'll be on Sunday, if at all. I like, as a sub 6K guy, Parker Washington. Even if Brian Thomas does play, he might be limited. Parker Washington with Brian Thomas out there last week saw 9 targets for 8 catches. He's only 5,600. He's got a pretty good matchup against the Texans. He's definitely popping out to me at that price. Obviously, if Brian Thomas is out, he would look like probably the best value receiver on the board. And then these guys all in a row, low 6Ks I am eyeing. Stephon Diggs against the Bucs, number 1 receiver, has found the end zone in the last 2 weeks. He projects out for over 10 fantasy points, which is all we need at 6,200. Khalil Shakir, 6,100, 50 receiving yard prop. He's projected for just over 10 fantasy points. 7 catches last week. He's not a guy that gets a lot of yards on his catches, but if he's getting 7 catches, I'm feeling pretty good about him. And Wan'Dale Robinson as well as the number 1 receiver for the Giants, 6,000. He had a great week last week with 9 catches, 46 yards, kind of like a Shakir stat line. But the targets are coming into these guys, and they're pretty cheap. So I would be looking more so in this range at wide receiver this week to save some money so we can spend up at running back. I guess I'll just pick Wan'Dale Robinson here, but I like all these guys that I mentioned. For my Guru credit code, go to my website, fd-guru.com. Go to the shop page. You'll get 20 Guru credits with this code. There's a little code bar here where you type in this week's code, which is week 10 NFL 25 for the year, all capital letters. Hit apply coupon, and you'll get 20 credits that you can use throughout my website on either NBA DFS lineups, NFL DFS lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings. For tight end, we can spend up at Trey McBride. He's expensive at $7K, but I think we want to stay a little cheaper here. Kincaid had a great game last week, 6 catches, 100 yards. He's a top target for Josh Allen. I do like him. George Kittle, good matchup against the Rams, had a bit of a rough week last week, but he's always a threat to score 1 or 2 touchdowns. Again, I do think this game's going to be back and forth in San Francisco. We got to keep an eye out on Cole Kmet because he has a concussion, and I already like the rookie Colston Loveland a lot. He had that unbelievable game-winning touchdown in the last seconds of the game last week. He had 6 catches, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's starting to become a top target for Caleb Williams. He's 5,600. He would be like an iffy play if Cole Kmet plays, but if Cole Kmet's out, he would be a really good tight end play at 5,600. Hunter Henry looks decent. He's a red zone threat. My favorite guy as of right now, though, is Zach Ertz. They're going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be down in this game. He's going to get targets. The coach already said McLaurin is not expected to play on Sunday. Deebo Samuel hasn't been doing much as of late. And then they just have secondary pieces that you can't really rely on in this receiving core. We got, let's see, Luke McCaffrey's out for the year with that collarbone. He screwed it up on the first kickoff return of that game last week. That's a tough blow, but that just opens the door for a weird good game from Jalen Lane or Chris Moore. Again, guys we can't really depend on. Deebo Samuel's really the only receiver, and he's pretty highly priced at 7,300. I think we got to take advantage at the tight end position. Zach Ertz had 4 targets for 4 catches last week. He's going to get involved. Again, cheap price, so if he gets anywhere 8 or more fantasy points, we're feeling good. He's averaging that on the year. Maybe we can sneak in a touchdown from him, but he should be getting plenty of looks on Sunday because they're most likely going to be down in this game. I like Ertz, but there's a lot of guys at tight end you could be looking at, as I mentioned, in the 6K range with Kittle, Kincaid, maybe Laporta, and then that Bears situation with Loveland. We got to keep an eye out on Cole Kmet. Then for defense, it was an easy value play. I don't know if I'm going to get off it. It's too cheap. It's a bad price. This Saints offense is so bad. We're picking this Panthers defense at home at only $3,600. They should definitely be priced over $4,000 in this matchup. I think the Saints are projected the lowest amount of fantasy points this week. I think we just plug and play the Panthers at $3,600 and move on with our lineups. That'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Let's have a big week 10. Drop a like, subscribe. Until next time, I'm the FD Guru. Peace.